Have you ever wanted to start a podcast but didn't feel like you had the time or the technical skills to be able to do it? Well, so thought my next guest. He is an emergency room physician, and now he is one of the hottest physician podcasts out there, and he influences thousands of new doctors every single week. He's actually also a student of mine, and we'll talk about what he got out of me being a mentor to him and what that led to, which is pretty exciting. I think you'll get a lot out of this episode. Meet Dr. Andrew Tisser on this episode of BootstrapMD. Hey guys, it's Dr. Michael Ming. Welcome to another edition of BootstrapMD. I am pumped for the doctor that I have on the program today. I think I first got contacted with Andrew, and you can probably refresh my memory because as you know, as I get older, the memory tends to go. But you had reached out to me. You had said some nice things about my podcast, and you were interested in delving into podcasts, and actually had started. I don't know if you'd actually started it, but maybe we're at the beginning stages of your podcast. And he has a podcast that you're probably familiar with. Called, I believe, Talk to Me Doc, right?
That's it.
Talk to Me Doc, right. And has recently transitioned to talking about early career physicians and himself as a, emergency room physician, also married to another early physician, just kind of all the trials and tribulations you get with that. So I thought would be a kind of a cool podcast to talk about those things. We can talk about podcasting, about deciding to change careers, like the beginning of your career, as well as he was actually a student of mine and got some mentoring help, and maybe he could talk about what he got out of that. So Andrew, I know I did a crappy job of building you up, but I think a lot of people know who you are. I actually spotlighted you on my Facebook page because of some exposure that you got out there, really got national attention. So we'll talk more about that, little tease for the podcast. So Andrew, other than that, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mike. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, man. I've been seeing you everywhere. You're on podcasts. You're blowing up on social media. You're a rock star, like I said when you were in my mentoring program earlier this year. But I want to have my audience know a bit more about you. I don't think I did the best job of building you up, but let's talk about it. You're up in upstate New York, emergency room doc, married to a doctor, thought you had everything that you wanted to do, but decided that maybe things in medicine wasn't what you initially thought about. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name's Andrew Tisser. I'm an emergency physician practicing in Western New York. I grew up down in New York City and escaped the city life and moved to a little more rural part of town, which is good for the soul, I think. I'm married to my wife, Alicia. She's a rheumatologist, so she is the smart one of the couple. I'm just the cowboy. But so briefly, when I was in residency, I was in the thick of it, and I always thought it would get a lot better once you got out. Everyone tells you, well, it's better after residency. And of course, in some ways it is, but a lot of times you come out and you're just disillusioned as to the state of medicine right now. So I followed my wife to Chicago for her fellowship, which was amazing, as in the city, but not the attending life. And I tried lots of different things. I looked into Medi spas, which is not for me. I did chart review. I was like, how do I get involved in insurance companies? I was just like, oh my God, I got to do something else because I'm dying here working 150 hours a month in the ER, seeing 4 patients an hour with administrators breathing down your neck and everything. But it all was put on hold until we moved back to Western New York because I didn't like anything. And then after that, I kind of started my podcast and met Mike and got involved in his course, and a lot of things have happened since. So that's the long-winded approach.
Other than that, everything you thought of when you entered medical school, right?
Other than that.
Talk to me about that. So this has actually happened in residency where you were kind of disillusioned. Is that right?
Yeah. I got I got done with medical school and I picked emergency medicine because I liked it the best, even though I wasn't like super enthused by any of the specialties. And I mean, residency was tough as it is for everyone. My wife and I matched 2 hours apart, and I was driving like crazy. I put like 100,000+ miles on my car in those 3 years driving back and forth. And
Wow.
it's I don't have to explain residency to the listeners, but I was just like, well, hopefully when you're making the big bucks and you have more time on your hands, it'll be better. But I think all that changes from residency is the paycheck and maybe some hours or less. But it's yeah.
So I know in my residency, maybe they kind of sheltered me from like all of the insurance claims and all that. The focus was, of course, treating the patient. Was there something like in particular in residency that just didn't jive you with maybe the patient population, or was it like the attendings, or just the way that we treat medicine? Was there anything in particular that didn't feel right to you?
I think it was just the volume. Like I got really good training. I'm never going to say I didn't, but the amount of patients that you had to see is good training for the real world, because at a lot of major hospitals, you are going to see that kind of volume, especially if you're working in the community. So I think, I think there was some paper I read that anything over 1.6 or 1.7 patients an hour, you start missing things and making mistakes. And in Chicago, one of the places I was at, I was seeing 4 patients an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we always had 40 in the waiting room. So like that's the fast track to burnout.
Yeah, that's like primary care. I was doing, sometimes I was doing, obviously ER is different from, family medicine, but sometimes, 4 to 6 an hour, patient every 7 to 8 minutes. And that there's a lawsuit just like heading your way if you're doing that amount of volume. No matter if you're the best physician in the world, you're going to make mistakes.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, and then it's just, push. But if you make any mistake, then you get, it's not, even if it's not a legal consequence, then maybe the admin's raining down on you or whoever. So, that was a big issue. I didn't think you had enough time to see your patients. And, like in ER, we're sheltered from insurance issues, but we see it on the other hand, that people can't get in to see primary care or or specialists because of insurance issues, and then they end up with us.
So you graduated from residency. You start looking at like where you could work at. It sounds like obviously location is going to be important. Obviously, you want to be where your spouse is going to be. And you settle in Western New York.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were working at it, were you also still looking at other things while you're working, or were you just like so burnt out from work that turn on the TV and go to bed?
Yeah, no, I give credit to my wife. She's the most patient woman I've ever met, because every third day it was something else. I was like, I'm going to be a full-time whatever, full-time insurance person. Then I'm going to do admin, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that. And it was like a whirlwind of just like, how do I escape medicine? And really it wasn't until I started, running towards something instead of away that I've been able to find peace with that. And right now, I mean, it's the organization I work for now is great. I don't have qualms about it. And all my other side projects just keep me fulfilled.
Got it. So let's get into the side projects now. And just so that our listeners have a kind of a time frame, how long have you been out of residency?
3 years. So I graduated in 2017. Yes. So
2017.
So 3 years.
So let's say when did you start like looking at different gigs and actually like decide maybe podcasting was the way, or when did you start? I guess when did you start finding out that there were other doctors who had similar concerns as you?
Probably like fresh. I think I started looking in residency because I knew this wasn't like being a full-time ER doc was never going to be the answer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stumbled upon yourself and John Jerica and other people like that, and started listening to I've been listening to John Jerica's show forever, and all the different things people do. So probably late residency, but I didn't have a lot of time to consume all that. And
Sure.
then once I got out and realized that it was just, and I did full-time locums when I got out, which gave me
Oh,
some
wow. I didn't know that.
flexibility. Yeah, so that gave me some flexibility with scheduling, but it was still like it wasn't, it was still too much. So probably right after residency is when I started delving into it. And then as far as making actual plans and deciding upon things, that was 2 years later. So about a year ago now that I really got into what I want to do.
Okay, so you're listening to guys like John and myself. What I love about a podcast is, you can be doing other things. Hopefully you're not doing some type of procedure, driving home, just listening, turning on the smooth sounds of John Jerica, but I guess with the exposure, of different interviews with different clinicians, probably, it at least gave you some hope, correct?
Yeah, it did. And the one side, it was very helpful to know that other people are very successful doing other things. I mean, John Jerica's whole thing was, let's get you a non-clinical job that replaces a similar income, so that was always a concern for me. And listening to how successful you've been and some of your guests as well, definitely gave me hope. But on the other side of things, it was so much. There was so much information. Like, there were so many things you can do. So I wanted to do it all. I wanted to try everything, that's because I wanted out, but it did give me a lot of hope, and it was helpful. And just knowing that if I picked something and worked towards it, I could do whatever I wanted, really.
So what in particular, eventually you chose podcasting as kind of your first vehicle to just talk about the issues. Why did you decide podcasting was the way versus like blogging or, creating YouTube videos? Why podcasting?
Okay. Well, I'll give you a little secret, Mike. I am
Okay.
really bad at writing. Like, I don't understand the comma. I don't know where it goes. My wife proofreads anything I write, and she's just like, no, comma doesn't go where you pause in your thoughts. Like, there's places it go. So blogging was out because I could never do consistent writing. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I like them. I like that I could listen on the commute, that there was that it really was kind of a low stress vehicle in order to at least get some of my thoughts out there. And just being able to talk to people, different guests, I think it fits with my personality. Again, my wife tells me I could talk to a rock because I talk to everybody I meet, and I guess, I'm the guy talking to you on the plane, unfortunately, because but so that's why I chose podcasting. And I got into it originally because when I was leaving Chicago, a security guard got me a gift. And I asked him why, and he said, well, because you talk to me like I'm a person. And I'm like, well, that's weird. What, do other people not? And he was like, you'd be surprised. And so that's when I started talking to different healthcare team members in the issue of communication. And that kind of morphed into talking about issues as they relate to the healthcare worker experience in general. And then that kind of like narrowed down my focus into talking about issues that are specific to the early career physician, because all those different team members have a role to play and affect the way our jobs and our roles are as clinicians. But those are the issues that I'm passionate about, and that's what I am.
So your podcast is called Talk to Me, Doc. And, I know the answer to kind of this story because, as a mentor, that was something that you were struggling with and maybe still consider struggling. Although I think now at this point, you've decided where to go. It is like, we're talking about the podcast, but then we also need to talk about, well, how can I generate some revenue, obviously,
right,
from a podcast? And you focused on communication, medical communications issues, and you got tremendous feedback, from it. You've got a lot of positivity. You felt great with the podcast, but there are other things that you wanted to talk about. When did you decide to focus on, early career physicians?
Well, I think it kind of coincided with the time that I started working with you as well. There was a lot of talk about student debt and about where the life cycle of the current physician and how that's going. And those were kind of the issues I was addressing a lot on the show. And it became communication that led to like burnout issues. And then those burnout issues, we started talking about like how they related to myself, because I'm an early career doc and that's the experience I have. And that's how it kind of funneled down into like, yeah, I want to talk about the issues that it pertains specifically to this demographic. And I arbitrarily chose 7 years as people out of training for less than 7 years. I thought 10 was too long because I think the generations are different. But I thought 5 was not inclusive enough. So I thought 7 years was a good place to start. And that includes residents as well. And so that's kind of where it ended up, that I wanted to start talking about early career issues.
And what's been the feedback since you've transitioned to this area?
Well, it's been good. It's been going that way for a while. I'm going to formally pivot the show. I guess you heard it here first. I'm going to formally pivot the show to only be about early career issues, coming up after the 25th episode, which airs next week. And I'm still going to have multidisciplinary guests on the show to discuss issues as they relate to the early career doc. But I think it's given the show a little more vision and a little more clarity.
And let's talk about early career physicians. What are kind of the topics that, or maybe some of the things that early career physicians might have to worry about more than, let's say, your mid to late physicians?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first and foremost is student debt. The rising tuitions in medical school over the last decade have been astronomical, along with the usury type interest rates that have been placed upon us. For example, my final year of medical school, which was in 2014, it was $56,000 a year for tuition, plus living expenses on Long Island. So you were taking out like 80 grand a year at 7%. So, and with the elimination of subsidized loans, when you get done with a 3 to 5 year residency program, you're adding $100,000 to $200,000 of interest on top of your principal. So you're looking at 500 grand straight out of residency at 7 to 8%. So I think that's a big issue that, I think a lot of people used to talk about, just live below your means and pay them off in 2 to 3 years, which is certainly possible. But I, for one, did not want to live in a broken down trailer and eat baked beans for 5 years and, just shop at the dollar store after residency. I didn't believe in that. I believed in abundance and creating more opportunities for yourself to help with those things. So I think student loans are a big one. It's also a bit of a scam when they tell you the average indebtedness of the class is 200 grand, but 50% of the class has no loans. So actually it's 400 grand for the people that take out loans. So that's a big issue. I think everyone's struggling with the insurance companies kind of controlling medicine, which has only gotten worse over the last number of years. Corporate medicine as well. You're not seeing small independent hospitals anymore. And I think now I don't know if we can say we're post coronavirus, but after the coronavirus issue goes away, if it does, we're going to see a lot of smaller hospitals get gobbled up or disappear just because they can't survive. And then just more and more loss of autonomy of physicians to both corporate medicine and to being replaced by physician extenders is I think more of a now issue than it ever was. So those are a couple examples.
I can't imagine anyone is at the schools are talking about doing anything other than being an employee. You don't hear anybody starting their own practice or any, business acumen given, correct?
No, I mean, it was taught to us that private practice is dead and you got to join a group or you never survive, which is untrue, especially with the direct primary care movement and some of the things people are doing with cash-based practices and concierge medicine and direct primary care. I think that's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And I guess a lot of times too, the people who are teaching are in academics and they not necessarily are exposed to the different types of doctors, which, that's another story for another time. But just
Yes.
in terms of who's actually training you guys. So you've got the podcast, and the name again is Talk to Me Doc. How can they listen to it? I know you've got a website.
Yep. So anywhere you get your podcast, it's Talk to Me Doc, talk the number 2 me DOC. You can go to my website at andrewtisserdo.com, and there's a little podcast button which will take you to a site that's fully dedicated to the podcast. But really, anywhere you get your podcast from, I'm there.
I want to talk about also. I've had inquiries about podcasting, in general.
Mhm.
Did you have to get a lot of equipment? Just I know I do a podcast, but they want to, the audience wants to know for any budding podcasters out there, in terms of like your equipment, is there a certain place where you do your podcast? Can you fill me on how your setup works?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I got this mic and this little boom arm thing. I mean, this all together was like $100. There's $150 right off my laptop, pair of headphones. And that was really the startup cost. There's different platforms you host them on and things, which are very nominal fees. And then, you don't need a website to start either. You can just kind of get going. And usually I do my show in the office, but my wife's seeing patients there, telemedicine right now. So I moved to the dining room with this lovely painting in the background. But yeah, usually I'm just doing it in my office, and it's all done via Zoom. So really, if you could, you could have a crazy setup with all kinds of impressive audio machines and things, but I've been told time and again I get great sound with this $100 mic, and so I got no reason to upgrade.
Do you spend a lot of time with editing or writing the show notes, that kind of thing, or do you outsource that?
Well, in the beginning I was doing it all myself. I have outsourced at this point just because it's not worth my time. They're much better editors than me. And I use a company to do that, and I send them the files, they put it together how I like it, turn it around in a few days. So that's been very helpful. They also create like basic show notes for me. I beef it up a little bit on my website, but and then I use some programs to help with the social media distribution. But all in all, I do the recording, and then I spend maybe another hour on the actual episode, whether between promotion and getting the website ready and just putting it on the host. So that's really all I'm doing now. So I've learned.
Are you okay sharing stuff with the companies, or was it like done through Upwork or?
Oh no! So I use for editing. I use a company called Podblade, like a blade. They're wonderful, and I can share a link for you to put in the notes for them. But basically, they're very affordable, and they do a lot of things. They post it on YouTube for me. They make a little video snippet, an audiogram for social. They do the show notes and do all the editing. It's a really wonderful service that a lot of other companies charge double, triple the amount for. So I've had nothing but good things to say about them.
Awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. I always want to know, like, what are people using? Because you shouldn't be spending all the time doing it unless you love doing it.
Yeah.
I like messing around with video just because I like it, but other things I just completely outsource everything.
I mean, it's silly for the amount of, if you like break down the costs on what you make at work for an hour. I mean, it's like, why was I doing that?
Yeah. But often as docs, we tend to can have control freaks, and just isn't anything.
I know. Well, that's what happened with my website, actually. Like, I was tinkering with it, and I was like working on it for weeks, and then it crashed, and I lost everything. I couldn't find the backup. And my wife was like, "What are you doing? Like, pay somebody to do this. Like, you just spent like 4 weeks, all this time, and it's gone." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." Like, why not?
So I want to shift gears here. And so when we were doing the program and helping you get your name out there, something really interesting happened, I guess is the word for it. I remember, and my program, it's a group coaching. So there's a number of us docs, including Andrew. And Andrew was, at that time, COVID-19, he was really, I think it was just beginning, or you were getting really busy. And you had, I remember you were saying you were getting an interview with, I believe, like a local radio on it. They wanted to talk about, I believe, your loans, and I'm going to let you tell the rest of the story. But it led to some nationwide exposure. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny chain of events, but so basically, I helped Dr. Nisha Mehta with the COVID-19 Pandemic Physician Protection Act that was submitted to the Speaker of the House a number of months ago. So I helped author the section on student loans. And so I had a local TV reporter that, I don't know, caught me I don't know how they found me, but they found me on social somewhere and wanted to do a little story. So they were affiliated with NPR. So they published that story locally. And then an NBC reporter caught the NPR segment and reached out to me to see if I wanted to do a bigger segment. So I actually did an interview and subsequently was published in NBC News, national NBC, about the act and the student debt crisis. And so that kind of blew up. And then I got an email from the NBC reporter, hey, check this out. And it was Senator Bernie Sanders tweeting the article with my face on it. So that was, yeah, I feel, well, kind of my face, a mask and a helmet on. But yeah, so that led to a little bit of national press with my helmeted face by Senator Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah, not only U.S. I remember, I think it was France or Germany.
I had like there was like a French article about it, and then there was like there was a article from the Netherlands and like different languages. I'm like, oh my God, everybody's using my face all of a sudden. No, it was pretty cool.
And because of that, what did that lead to? I know you got some like political things going on, and
yeah, so that definitely led to some more exposure, and I've been working with pushing some of the political changes we want forward, along with the act and some of our senators and representatives of in regards to helping with student debt. I think with some of the more recent current events that has been tabled for a little while, but at least if we get the national attention and we can at least have the conversation going about the rising medical school tuition and the craziness of the debt right now, I think that's a win just to have people talking about it.
And recently you've been working on coaching other doctors. Let's talk about your coaching program.
Yeah, sure. So Talk to Me Doc has expanded into a Talk to Me Doc consulting coaching program. So I personally work one-on-one with early career physicians on the issues of money, that is optimizing finances, not just student loans, but a couple of the other issues we run into early career. So finances, mindset issues that people have, like I talked about, the issue of scarcity versus abundance, and a couple other things that are drilled into us in medical school. Imposter syndrome is a common one. And I like to say making moves or goal setting and achieving goals, because my goal is not to remove people from medicine. I don't think that's going to be sustainable for the long time. If they want to leave medicine, great. I know a lot of people they could talk to, but if they want to stay and be happy again and create a career that they're happy with, that like I have, then you can talk to me and we can work one-on-one and working through those issues.
Awesome. So guys, if you're an early career physician and you need somebody maybe to help you who's kind of been there, done that, I encourage you to go check out Andrew. Your website again, what's the best place?
Yep. So it's Andrew Tisser. So Andrew, TISSERDO.com. And all the information's on there. You can find me on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere as either Talk to Me Doc or my name. And so I encourage you to reach out. I'm pretty good at getting back to people.
Awesome, guys. And I may be a little bit biased because you were my student, but what was really cool is the person, getting to know the person behind it, and the intentions of what they can do and what they can share. If you wouldn't mind, because people have been asking me about my own coaching program, maybe just talk about what you got out of it. Other than making you do a lot of work, a lot of busy work, and taking you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mike's program is amazing. Um, Mike has years of experience teaching people how to create multiple streams of income, as well as just focusing you on what really matters. I mean, the program, first of all, the group coaching model is awesome. Like, we learned from each other, but Mike was there to be like, no, that doesn't make any sense, or I told you to do XYZ and you've done nothing thus far, which is really sometimes a push in the right direction. Plus, just tips and tricks and the experience that he is able to share with his students. Like, it's not, I'm not giving away any of his secrets, but when he would tell us a thing to do, I'd be like, I've never even heard of such a thing, and it works, and it works. So, Mike is your guy if you want to start a business. And you're looking for a little guidance. He will help you get everything sorted out, get you in the right path, and help you make a lot of money.
Awesome. Andrew, my friend, I just see more, great stuff for you in the future. I still think you may have a role in politics, even though you don't know it, right now. But in terms of what you're doing and how you're reaching, I know your podcast and your Facebook group is blowing up. I'm looking at your podcast numbers, and you're doing some tremendous stuff, Andrew. So, congratulations again to your success.
Thank you.
And any last minute words before we end the call today?
Well, no, I think, guys, I want all the physicians out there, not only early career, to know that it is possible to create a career in medicine that you're happy with. Really, we are one of the most educated fields there is. You have the most versatile degree that there is. So, please leverage your credentials to create what you want to create, and the possibilities are endless. And listen to Mike. He knows what he's talking about.
Thanks again, Andrew. Thanks to everyone. Again, there is hope out there. There are doctors who are doing things that, if there are doctors that are doing things that you are interested in doing, you got to reach out and find them. That's what Andrew did. That's some of his former classmates, I guess you will, from my students, did as well. So whatever you do, there are people like Andrew out there who can help you. And it really is about, paying it back forward, or paying it forward, as they like to say. And that's how, as physicians, we can't rely on other people who are out there who are non-physicians to get us where we want to be. I think that's kind of what the trouble is, how we got in there in the first place. And if we want to help each other, it's physicians helping other physicians. So thanks again, Andrew. Thanks again for your time. And as always, guys, keep moving forward.
Thanks, Mike.
Awesome, guys. I hope you liked that interview. It's always kind of great talking with either current or former students and just seeing what they've accomplished. If you're kind of stuck in your business and would like a helping hand how to do it, we do offer mentoring programs throughout the year. You can contact us at BootstrapMD.com. Just go to the Contact Us button on the upper right and just put in the subject line mentorship, and we'll be happy to send you all the details. So until next time, guys, take care, stay safe, and always keep moving forward.